A lot of people in Northeast Ohio look pretty tired all day today. Jim Ingraham is here. He's wide awake. More Sports and Les Levine is on the air. From the worldwide headquarters of More Sports and Les Levine, it's a Thursday night. Good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to More Sports and Les Levine, always brought to you by McDonald's Restaurants of Northeast Ohio. Jim Ingraham is here of the Chronicle Telegram. Did you get any sleep at all last night?
You still have the nap time halfway through the show, right?
Yes, it's
okay,
we call it recess around here.
Yeah, no, I allegedly got enough sleep last night.
Yeah.
But it was close.
What time did you get home?
I got home at 4 a.m.
4 a.m.
Yes.
So just reveling downtown?
The traffic, there was not much traffic at that time, even after a final game.
Right. Well, there might have been had the results been a little bit different.
Or if I was going in towards Chicago, I think there would have been a lot of traffic.
Right, exactly. 216-575-0403. You can email us during the show at les.levine@twcable.com. Let's kind of get to it right off the bat. Email from Peter. That was a tough one. Same team next year with hopefully a healthy Brantley, Carrasco, and Salazar. I imagine Napoli will return. He should be cheap enough. Hopefully Kipnis matures, gets himself into better condition, and leads them to a title. You object to any of that?
Well, I didn't sense that Kipnis was out of shape.
That's me neither, other than getting hurt jumping up and down on a celebration.
Yeah, that was kind of unfortunate. But, yeah, the rest of that sounds right.
This is from Frank in Strongsville. It was a great Game 7, but the Tribe weakness is hurt. The outfielders are barely adequate. Chisenhall may have had a few hits and a good throw yesterday, but there were several outfield plays that cost us runs. Ramirez was a bonus during the year, but he's less than average third baseman. There were two little swinging bunts that Ramirez failed to field. Yesterday there was a hard hit ball that he couldn't get to. Bryant makes exceptional plays. Ramirez does not. Okay.
Well, I disagree with that. I think Ramirez is above average defensively.
Yeah, I do too.
At third base. And
the play I was talking about was the one Zobrist punched down the left field line.
Nobody gets that. It was right on the line. He's a left-handed hitter. He's going to be off the line a little. And the reason they lost is that the injuries to the pitching staff finally caught up to him in the last two games of the series. Yeah. I mean, if Salazar and Carrasco don't get hurt and take their regular turn through the World Series, I think they win.
Yeah, you don't see Tomlin, you don't see Bauer.
Yeah, and you see Kluber with normal rest.
Right.
I mean, that all adds up to, a lot.
216-575-0403. You can email us during the show at les.levine@twcable.com. I know you got to have some things on your mind after last night. Great game, great series, or are we just that way because it was Cleveland and it was close?
No, I think the general
historically
consensus around the country is that was one of the great World Series games ever, maybe the best Game 7 ever. I mean, given that neither team had won in so long, and it went extra innings in Game 7, and the drama all the way through it. It was just a tremendous game. And I think, for the Indians fans, one thing you got to remember is the Cubs are really good. I mean,
they're really good, and they're a great story, which I think people are objecting to.
Yeah, and at the start of the series, I mean, they were major favorites over the Indians in the series, and the Indians took them to extra innings in Game 7 with basically 2.5 starters.
Right, exactly.
It was all that.
Let's check out MS&LL headlines brought to you by Northfield Park, your home for live and simulcast racing. And we'll find out what's going on oh, I'm sorry. There you go. Well, we'll catch up. We've got to do, no, we're right on schedule. 40 million did watch last night. That's a record, at least for the last 25 years or so. This is good news. LeBron says to the Indians, well, you never get past the pain. Well, it helped that he got another ring this time. And the Cavs at 4-0 will host the Boston Celtics. We've got a secret word. Say that secret word. We'll send you to Sokolowski's University Inn. It's a word that's used quite often in a couple of different sports, and that is our secret word. As you know, Jim, I'm the self-proclaimed voice of truth and reason in Cleveland sports. It's less than 24 hours, and it still hurts. But for some reason, it doesn't hurt like the shot or the drive or even Jose Mesa. Maybe it's because once Danny Salazar and Carlos Carrasco were on the injured list, we thought we were just happy enough to be invited to the party. Maybe it's because it was the Chicago Cubs and not the New York Mets or Los Angeles Dodgers or even the Miami Marlins. Maybe it's because Progressive Field was filled to the brim every night, even if many of the people in attendance were rooting for the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, or the lovable Cubbies. Or maybe, despite the tease of Game 7's 10th inning, that made us forget we had an outfield comprised of Lonnie Chisenhall, Rajai Davis, Coco Crisp, Brandon Geyer, and the highly overmatched Tyler Naquin. The reality, however, is that baseball is back in Northeast Ohio. Think about this. The pitching staff comes back to good health. Michael Brantley, arguably the team's best player, does the same. Maybe they lose Mike Napoli, maybe they keep him. He, of course, struggled the last month of the season. And then maybe they add some starting outfielders. Add Terry Francona to the mix. Looks to me like the Indians can make a run for it for the next 2 or 3 years, at least. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the whole core guys, all their important players are under contract for the next 2 or 3 years. They've got, when healthy, arguably the best rotation in the American League, and their offense was good enough to support that pitching staff. So again, if they can just keep the core guys healthy, I don't see any reason they can't be back next year.
No, but if fans says, well, we got this close, we'll get over the top next year, a lot of things have to fall in place.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a given. The team with the best talent every year doesn't get to the World Series every year. And, a lot of stuff can happen during the course of a season. But, when you look at it on paper, and this is not a great free agent year, so barring some major trades between teams, some of these teams aren't going to be able to make huge upgrades by spending a lot of money on impact free agents. So the Indians are really in a good spot right now, I think.
Northfield Park, they've got the Breeders' Cup coming up, and that'll be this Friday and Saturday. And, of course, it comes from Santa Anita. Both championship days offer free handicapping contests with cash prizes. On Saturday, Bob Railbird Roberts will host a Breeders' Cup handicapping seminar from 2 to 3. All guests receive a free entry in the Beat the Railbird contest. Now, understand that, Jim. He's going to teach you how to handicap, and then you get a chance to beat him.
Well, if you don't, you blame your teacher, right?
Yeah, exactly. You got to hold out against him, no question about it. Select more winners than the Railbird for your chance to share in a $2,000 prize pool. It's free admission, free parking every day at Northfield Park. Amazing tickets. They've got them for Cavs tickets. You don't have to worry about the middleman on that. They've got Browns tickets, brownstickets.com. Got the Dallas Cowboys coming in. You can buy tickets there at 216-591-1800. We'll come back in a moment. We're brought to you by McDonald's Restaurants of Northeast Ohio. I'm loving it. Let's check out birthdays to today. Is that Bob Feller's statue on the left, or is that actually Bob?
I think that looks like him.
November 3rd is the date. Bob was born on this date. George Yardley, former basketball player. Jim Houston, former Brown. Barbed Wire from 1947. Bob Welsh and Carlos Dansby, all born on the 3rd of November. Coming up on Time Warner Sports Channel, we've got plenty of action. 7:30 on Friday live. It's OHS AA regional quarterfinals, depending on what part of the state you live in. Check out your local listings for that. 11 p.m. it's the High School Blitz live. And then at 11:30, it's Glen Oak versus Solon in football. Saturday, college football live. It'll be Valpo versus University of Dayton. And then at 7 p.m., you've got more high school football action live. Trotwood versus Wapakoneta. 216-575-0403. Let's see what Mike is thinking. Is brought to us by Authentic Nature Stone Flooring. Beautiful basements, garages, and much, much more. Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm good, Les. How are you doing?
Good. Jim Ingraham with us tonight.
Hey, Jim. How are you?
Hi, Mike. Good.
All right, so you were confident at three games to 1. You were confident, as I was, at 3-2, and then confident at 3-3. What the heck happened?
Well, I was fortunate enough to be at the game last night, so I got some late tickets and went ahead and got out there with a good friend of mine, and it was a pretty wild experience. I've never experienced anything like that before, and a lot of Cubs fans there. But a great crowd just in general. When Rajai Davis hit that home run, the Indians fans completely drowned out that stadium. You would have thought there was no Cubs fans there at that point in time. And, windows were shaking up on the suites and stuff. So a great experience. But, I think – oh, I'm sorry.
No, hang on one second. Jim, the windows were open to the press box, which is unusual in September, let alone October or November. What did you hear?
Just what Mike said. I mean, it was the loudest I've ever heard, I think, at the ballpark. And you could feel the park shaking a little bit from the noise. It was really unbelievable.
Mike, I think the thing about that is it was a rocket shot. It wasn't a high fly ball where there was anticipation. The only anticipation was it going to get over the railing.
Right, yeah. So when he hit it, you didn't know if it was going to get up and over or if it was going to hit the top of the wall and bounce off, kind of from our vantage point. and as soon as you saw it went over, the crowd just exploded. Yeah. The only thing that I can compare that to was the Stipe Miocic fight. I mean, that was very similar in that 4 or 5 minute span there where that fight went on, where it was just, the stands were shaking from the noise in the crowd.
All right, I've got one problem. It's not fashionable to criticize Terry Francona, and far be it from me to do that, but I'll ask you both. It looked to me early on that Tyler Naquin was totally overmatched. Any pitch above the waist, there was no way he could get around on it. What took him so long to put Rajai in instead of him? And when he did put Rajai in, even if it was against a right-hander, he didn't have him in the leadoff spot where he could have wreaked some havoc on the base paths. Jim?
Yeah, I thought actually in Game 6 the game that Naquin really had trouble defensively, especially. Right. He kind of was going on the fence between Davis and Naquin there, and he went, I think, with Naquin because that's how he'd done it all year against right-handed pitching, and it ended up costing him because that was a huge misplay.
Yeah, it's 1-0 otherwise. Yeah, instead it's 3-0.
It kind of deflated the whole atmosphere there.
Right.
But I'm not sure about why Davis didn't lead off there because I think he's as good a leadoff hitter as anybody. Although, Santana does have a much better on-base percentage than Davis.
But Davis can run.
Davis can run, yeah. I mean, so you balance those two.
Yeah, Mike, any thought on that?
I thought that Naquin was an unusual player pretty much all throughout the playoffs. Just when you thought that he was, done and he was going to make the change, all of a sudden he'd come up with a big hit or do something special. And I just, in my opinion, just from a coaching standpoint, he's just one of those guys that he's been in there all year. He's consistently been pretty good for you during the course of the year. He showed that the moment wasn't too big for him in other circumstances. He got a big base hit in the Toronto series, and I believe in the Boston series too. I think he had a big base hit in both those series. I think it was just one of those things where he just made the decision to go with them, hoping that he would snap out of it. But he didn't. He had a poor game overall, and it cost him.
Yeah, Jim. Overall, Terry Francona, as far as I'm concerned, was manager of the playoffs, manager of the decade.
Well, he was, for me, manager of the year without question, and then the playoffs he validated it even more by really kind of reinventing how you manage postseason baseball. And he was a big reason why they were able to go as far as they did with a depleted pitching staff.
Hey, help me out on this one. Javier Baez, with a 3-2 count, attempted to bunt. I'm going to assume that was just a bad play that he did on his own. I mean, there's no way Madden caused that, is there, Mike, as a former coach?
Well, I would tell you this. Number one, getting to Madden, I know they won. I didn't think he managed that series very well at all. And I thought that a lot of things that he did could have cost him, particularly that game, but the series in general. I don't think that Madden called that. I don't believe that he did. I know that, and I don't know if this was on TV, but when you were at the game, Baez, in between pitches, there was a stoppage in play for something, and Baez went down and spoke to the third base coach,
right,
and then came back and put that bunt down. So it's possible that the third base coach may have said something to him. Maybe said, if you think that it's a particular pitch is coming and you're more likely to get it down, let's get it down and try to
Okay, let me tell you
here.
something. If that's what happened, if the coach told him that, the coach should be fired by noon today.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, you got the odds of getting a base hit or against a drawn-in infield or a fly ball, even a medium deep outfield, and get that run in. That's so much more than being able to lay down a bunt on a 3-2 count.
Oh yeah, and Baez just got done hitting a home run too. So
right,
earlier in the game. So I don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I would never say to do that. I'm just answering the question because I saw that interaction between him and the coach, and then very next pitch he throws the bunt down. I was talking to a group of people in the stands. They didn't realize that he was out, and I said, well, yeah, when you bunt a third strike foul, and you show the bunt and that goes foul.
Mike, that goes with my theory. If you are going to go to a World Series game, you should take a test when you get in the gate. Don't you think?
I think
you
most
don't pass
people
it,
were
they
just
just-
If you don't pass
astonished
it,
that
if
he
you don't
did
know
it.
that a foul
Yeah.
on a third strike bunt is a strikeout, you just say go to the bar and watch the game on TV.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if it was that or if it was just that most people were just in shock that he did it.
Yeah.
It was a wild play. I've never seen that before. So
However, you should tell those people if you hit a regular foul with a 3-2 count, you get another pitch.
you're good to go.
You're
yeah,
good
you
to
keep
go.
going.
Anything
Do-over.
else you'd like to add to the proceedings here before we make a verdict on the show?
I just want to say, and Jim, I always love your takes and everything, but the ball that Zobrist hit down the line, I thought it was off the line first. I did not think it was down the line. And being a former infielder and a coach, Ramirez hesitated and took a false step before he actually dove to get that ball. I personally thought that if he'd have just gone after the ball, it could have been a fairly routine play, and at worst he would have had an out at third. And if you watch that play from where I was sitting, there was a true hesitation and what I refer to as a false step, meaning that he took a step in the wrong direction and then went back towards the ball, and he ended up having to dive for it. He didn't make the play.
You're
but
right.
I agree with you 100%. He's a phenomenal defensive third baseman. So take nothing away from him for that. It's just I thought that was a play that
Yeah, I
could
think
have made.
when you're playing off the line like that and a left-handed guy slices one down that, it's not going to take a true angle, especially when it hits the ground. I mean, the only thing I could say is that's the way they had him positioned, and you're opening yourself up to have that done. But you're right. If he's able to backhand it, he could have rolled over and stepped on third.
Yeah, and then you got 2 outs in first and second. It's
Right.
all hindsight. It was a great game, guys. It was a great game. It was a great series. Francona managed perfectly. I just had a different, a little bit different take on that. I thought that he could have made that play if he would have gone right after the ball and tried to backhand it.
All right, Mike, we will talk to you next week. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, my pleasure, guys. Take care. Thank you.
Okay, good to see you. What's Mike Thinking? Brought to you by Nature Stone, Authentic Flooring. Jim Ingraham is with us. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. Perfect Ash Cigar Lounge, the place to go if you are a cigar smoker and love football. They've got big screen TVs. They're open Sunday from 10 until 6. They're open 7 days a week, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday. And outdoors weather permitting, which it has been lately, it's perfectashcigars.com. It's located off Brecksville Road next to the Independence Water Tower, just 5 minutes from I-77 Rockside Road exit. It's game on at Perfect Ash Cigar Lounge. Northeast Factory Direct, they busted out a wall in the back and they doubled their size, meaning more savings to you. That's at West 140th near 71 coming in from the airport or going out from downtown Cleveland. And Curtis Boulevard, that's in Eastlake, Northeast Factory Direct. Jim Ingraham and I return in a moment. We're brought to you by McDonald's Restaurants of Northeast Ohio, and I'm loving it. Time for a How Come Quickie. How come, Jim, if the National League doesn't want a DH in their lineup, they should stop using it in the World Series and just let the American League use it? Makes sense to me.
Yeah, that would be good. They started a game with the wrong rules. In the
Right.
World Series.
That's exactly right. I'll be back on radio tomorrow morning into the afternoon from 10 until 2, and for Jeff Phelps on Baskin and Phelps, that's on 92.3 The Fan. Tim and Norton. Nothing can be done about injuries to Brantley, Carrasco, and Salazar. Messing around with potentially dangerous hobbies like drones is immature and inexcusable, but that's not the main reason for losing the World Series, but it made it tougher. So darn close, but I'm so proud of the Cleveland Indians. Tim wants to know if we're in favor of keeping Trevor Bauer. He's arbitration eligible, so there's no decision on that.
Yeah, he's not free agent eligible for another couple of years.
Shamrock says Indians may have lost, but they weren't expected to be in the World Series. It took baseball's best team, second highest payroll, loaded with 20-somethings. The Cubs 7 games plus an inning to beat an undermanned underdog Indians team. The inning may have resembled 1997, but the feeling is much more positive. The only negative to me was seeing the Cubs fans in our park. That was embarrassing. Michael. I never cried in the 90s, yet I broke down twice this morning. This particular team has stole my heart completely, and today my heart is broken. I can think of no better way to honor this group of guys other than buying up some tickets for next season. I think that's the thought around a lot of this place.
Well, yeah, they are a very appealing team because what they overcame to get to where they went.
Right.
And even when they're at full strength, it's not like they've got a lot of, marquee Hall of Fame players on their roster.
Correct.
I mean, this is really the epitome of a team. I mean, they all do what they're supposed to do in their little areas, and they got a manager that knows how to handle those kind of guys.
Well, we'll get to that manager in a second. Andy in North Royalton, North Olmsted rather, if you hang on, we'll get to you in a minute. But I want to hear what Tito Francona had, or Coach Francola, as Hugh Jackson would say, what he had to say after last night's tough loss.
That was an incredible game. I mean, to be a part of. And I talked before the game about being an honor to be in a game like that. But to be associated with those players in that clubhouse, it is an honor. And I just told them that. It's going to hurt. It hurts because we care. But they need to walk with their head held high because they left nothing on the field. And that's all the things we ever asked them to do. They tried until there was nothing left.
Terry Francona, who managed phenomenally, I thought, over the since the playoffs began. Let's continue on. Let's go to Andy. Andy's in North Olmsted. Hi, Andy.
Hey, Les. Hey, Jim. How's it going?
Good. And you?
Good. Hey, a couple comments about the game. I want to get your take on this, both of you guys, please. Going into the series, one of our strong suits supposedly was base running. And I really thought that our base running at times was very poor. And I thought that Chicago was a lot more aggressive on the base pass than we were. I want to get your take on that because I thought that was a big deciding factor throughout the series.
Well, while we're doing that, I'd like to ask Jim why the Indians didn't bunt on John Lester, who clearly has a problem. There was one play, he got a ground ball with a man on first, didn't want to throw it. Changed his mind about throwing to second and then underhanded it to first. Yeah. Why wouldn't they be bunting on him?
Yeah, I can't answer, and because you have a better chance to exposing his inability to throw to first there than you do on stolen bases, where he's still, although he won't throw to first, he's very quick to the plate.
Yeah,
David
so
Ross
you get a bigger jump, but
very, very quick.
But if you make him throw, that's going down the right field line most probably.
Yeah. I don't understand. The bunny part I don't understand. I agree with the caller though on the base running was really below average for a team that really is a good base running team. But Frank Lindor and Ramirez both got picked off first by Hendricks, I think, both times.
Terrible.
And they made some very poor base running decisions, and that's unlike them because they really were a good base running team all year.
Anything else, Andy?
Yeah, there's a couple more things, and with the base running real quick too. I mean, watching Schwarber steal second base on Kluber, and I mean, Tito had been around Lester so long in Napoli, and I don't think they really exploited that because you could take we can get into that about taking the lead off and this and that. They just really lacked aggressiveness. But, and I think also, too, offensively, you guys, when you look at the historic number of whiffs the Tribe hitters had, and we saw just how important it was this series when both teams benefited from the little number hits. And we saw Bryant have meltdown with errors. We saw Baez have meltdown. If you don't put the bat on the ball, I mean, if you strike out, it's not going to happen. And it was disappointing, too, obviously. I don't want to pile on, but there was no party at Napoli. Unfortunately, he just didn't step up. He had a very, very poor.
Somebody emailed me something, and I totally agree. It seems like every first pitch thrown to him is a strike. I mean, that must, and he takes it. That must be the scouting report that he's going to take it till he gets a strike. And it seems like 9 times out of 10, first pitch is a strike, then he's in a hole. He's in the pitcher's count and not the batter's count.
Well, hey, real quick,
go ahead, Jim.
The other thing with Napoli is, even when he's striking out during the regular season, he would have long at bats. Like I think for most of the year, I think he led the league in average pitches per at bat. But there towards the end in the postseason, he was having real short at bats, wasn't making contact, and it really wasn't helping the offense at all.
Hey, could I get your take on this too, you guys, real quick? How surprised were both of you that Kluber started that inning? When I thought that was a huge run that he gave up to
What are we
Baez.
talking about, the fourth inning or the
fifth inning?
Fifth inning.
Yeah. No. When Baez hit the home run, then he brought Miller in right after that.
I think he was only going to start and only going to pitch to that one hitter because then the top of the order was coming up.
Right.
And I don't think Francona wanted him to face that group again.
Which would have been one less for Miller to pitch to.
Starting with Fowler, who
Yeah.
hit the home run off him. So I think whether Baez hit the home run or not, Kluber was coming out after that one.
Yeah,
hitter.
I agree with that. That probably was in his mind as soon as he saw who'd be coming up.
And one last thing, please. How I was screaming at my TV when we had Chapman on the ropes, and Jan Gomes is up with a 2-0 count, you guys, and then he promptly swung at the next 3 balls and struck out. We had him on the ropes. I know a lot of managers don't like giving take signs, but I thought that was oh my gosh, that at bat I wish I could have back.
Yeah, there's a lot. You play an 8-7 game like that. There's going to be tons of things that you can question just like that. I think in Gomes' case, there's a theory in hitting that even if a guy walks on 4 pitches before you come to the plate, the assumption is you wait until a strike comes in. And the other argument on that is sometimes you realize that it's what they call a get me over fastball. You're down two balls, no strikes, and the guy's just throwing it in to get it over the plate, figuring you're not going to swing, and that might be the best pitch you're going to get in that at bat.
Yeah, but they were all 3 balls, so they were terrible pitches.
I'm just giving you the theory. I'm not saying it was right.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Sure.
Okay, Andy.
They need to. Okay.
Yeah.
They need to improve their outfield play too, because and real quick situationally, the ball that Brian scored on, the ball that was in very shallow center field, and then also because Rajay, the home run was huge, but also another play that was disappointing was when they went from first to second on a ball, and it's just those little. Remember when we were kids growing up, you guys? Okay, guy on first, 1 out. Here comes the ball. What are you doing? I mean, I just had flashbacks of that. That's all, you guys. It's
All
2
right.
plays that really were big.
Yeah, thank you. Again, you lose 8-7 in Game 7. You
Yeah,
can point to almost every inning. There's something to point to.
And the thing with Gomes, he's played so little in the last 2 months that, everything's off his timing. He had the bad throw into center field there on a stolen base attempt. So he really was just not his normal self at all, really, in that whole postseason.
Bill from Girard, Jim and Les, what a season. No one should have any complaints about the Indians. They lose their best outfielder and 2/3 of their pitching staff. Staff was overworked the past month. They got tired during the series, but still take the Cubs to the 7th game. I wish we would have seen Merritt start 1 game during the series. If so, it would have been Game 5, and he went with Bauer again.
Yeah, statistically, the Cubs eat up left-handed hitters, pitchers too, so that might have been part of it.
And he did his job getting them there.
Yeah, he sure did.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. On Saturday night, we'll have the More Sports Les Levine postgame show with Anthony Lima. That comes your way after every Ohio State game. You got Nebraska, 8 o'clock tip-off, so we'll be on the air at about 10:30. We'll go from 11:30 rather. We'll go from 11:30 to 12:30, and we'll have Urban Meyer's press conference. The first place you can see that. We'll have highlights. We'll have a chance to talk to all of you. That's this Saturday at about 11:30 right here on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel 1311 HD and 311. You've got the Breeders' Cup coming up at Santa Anita Friday and Saturday. The best place to watch is at Northfield Park. On Saturday, Railbird Roberts will host the Breeders' Cup handicapping seminar from 2 to 3. All guests receive a free entry into the Beat the Railbird contest. Select more winners than Bob, and you'll have a chance to share in a $2,000 prize. It's free admission, free parking every day at Northfield Park. We'll come back in a moment. Jim Ingraham with us, brought to you by McDonald's Restaurants of Northeast Ohio, and I'm loving it. This State of Sports History brought to you by Smiley One Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. Look at this. November 3rd, 1934, Mickey Cochran, who just got traded from the Philadelphia A's to the Detroit Tigers. He's named the AL MVP, but Lou Gehrig won the Triple Crown that year. I know the year that DiMaggio won the MVP over Williams, who hit 406. Yeah. The writers who voted hated Williams. I get that. What was the Cochran-Gehrig deal?
That might just be a New York thing. Or no, Cochran was the MVP. Well,
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I don't know. Can't answer that question. John from Dayton. I lost a lot of respect for Madden and how he handles his team. The Cubs have many great players, but they don't seem very disciplined, as shown throughout the series by whining about balls and strikes, getting each other's way on fly balls. This resulted in many close plays and errors. Then we find Madden doesn't even have team meetings. Go figure. Seems that he went where the club could buy him a championship. I agree with Jim that a healthy Tribe would have won the series.
Well, I don't think the consensus is that Madden's a pretty good manager.
I think he's okay.
His team.
This from Joe in Shalersville. I know that after the World Series ends, this email might be a little off base, but we do have a local Cleveland jockey named Scott Spieth riding in the $6 million Breeders' Cup Classic on Saturday evening. Thanks, Joe. Thank you. Fred in North Homestead, would you pursue signing Mike Napoli? I would not. I assume he's going to want to raise over this year's $7 million. I understand he had 34 homers and 101 RBIs and was a great teammate and inspirational leader, but he also had 194 strikeouts and became unproductive in the cleanup spot after August 1st.
All that's true, and I think they're going to wait and see what the market is on him. If I can't imagine the Indians offering him more than a year and an option. Just a thought, Michael Brantley, if they want to be safe with him, instead of having him in the outfield, maybe they would move him to first base.
Brantley to first base?
I mean, I'm not saying they're going to, but it would be an option if they didn't bring back Napoli.
Frank writes in, he says basically the same thing. Whoever emailed that Napoli will come cheap. I see 3 years, 40 to 45 million, which is not cheap. John in Sagamore Hills, a national radio host, Mad Dog Russo, and his columnist guest Bob Ryan were ripping Tribe fans for allowing Cub fans to buy so many tickets to Game 7. Is that fair criticism, or is Major League Baseball just simply giving them too much access to the brokers at our expense? Why were there so many there?
Well, they have a lot of money and time on their hands. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, if Cleveland fans want to sell their tickets to Chicago fans or to whoever, you put them on StubHub, and wherever they go, they go.
Let's go down to Cincinnati for Tom. Tom, good evening. Whoop, wait a minute. There you go. Hi, Tom. How are you? Tom, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead.
Okay, you guys just mentioned it a little bit, and one of your earlier emailers called it too. I was at the game last night. I guess you guys probably were too. And I did notice it was like Little Wrigley. There were so many Cubs fans there. And
well, here's the problem. It's not controllable, as Jim says, but if you've got 30, well, they advanced it up to 40, I think 38,000 is the max now. That's what the sellout was. But if you only have a base of 7,000 or 8,000 season tickets, that leaves a ton of tickets wide open to put on the open market. If you had, like the Indians had in the 90s, if you had 27,000 in those days it was a 42,000 seat stadium, but if you have 27,000 season ticket holders, which they did in the mid-90s, then that doesn't leave many for sale out to the public.
Is that all that the Indians have as far as season ticket holders, or 7,000 or 8,000?
Jim, is that that's
Somewhere
the
around
understanding?
there,
They've never told us that, but that's the prevailing guess.
Wow, because I listened to who's the Mad Dog character that's on.
Yeah, that's what we just
League?
talked about. Somebody on an email.
Right, and he had said that there were 25,000 Cubs fans at this thing, and it was
there was not 25,000 Cub fans last night.
Well, there were a lot, and the bleachers were entirely Cubs.
Yeah,
and
a lot
Indians,
is not 25,000.
Exactly. There were Indians fans that were coming over to stand by us that said that their seats were surrounded by Cub fans, and and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I mean, these Cub fans, they wanted it just as bad as we did.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, the Cubs fans were not nearly as obnoxious as New York or Boston fans when they come into town.
You're absolutely correct, because I had a fellow sitting next to me. The guy was, total gentleman, and
right.
There was no problem with him. It just seemed, it seemed like you were playing somewhere else. That's all. And I couldn't see this happening. Do you think if the Browns made, and this is just some kind of a fantasy thing, but if you think if the Browns would ever make the championship game, not the Super Bowl, but the AFC Championship again, do you think that whoever the other opposing team would have, that percentage of their fans?
No, because the Browns have they've got, I don't know how many thousands of people they have for season tickets, but it's probably 3/4 of the crowd size is season tickets.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay, just want to make a point.
Great to hear from you from Cincinnati. I appreciate it very much.
Well, the other thing is the proximity of Chicago to Cleveland made this.
5-hour drive.
If they were
6-hour
playing,
drive.
a West Coast team in the
Right.
World Series.
If the Dodgers wouldn't have gotten them, they won. This from Kathy. Along with me, my local son and daughter, as well as my son now living in Indiana, are all sad today over the loss. I probably, in every other aspect of life, would have been happy to concede to the one who's been waiting longer. or had not already had a major good fortune just a few months prior. But this is the first time in my life I can remember wanting this, even though there were two other factors. Like you guys, my dad took me to Indians games at the worn-out stadium as I was growing up, and I loved it. Tito in left field, the real Tito. Rocky and right, they were my favorite players. Every so often, my mom spoke of the 48 series. I listened to no sports talk radio today, although I had plenty of opportunity. From the morning on, I told myself I would listen to you live, that's tonight, because I knew you'd be coming from almost the exact same place that I am. I knew your show would help me take a step toward feeling so sad, and it is. I never looked at myself as a
Public servant
or psychologist or anything, but I know exactly what you're saying, Kathy. I know exactly. Let's take a break. We'll come back in a moment. Amazing tickets. They're the best on the secondary market. You've heard a lot about secondary markets recently. They are the best. They've got Cavs tickets. You don't have to pay for the middleman. And they've got Browns tickets at brownstickets.com in addition to amazingtickets.com. Just check out the site or call 216-591-1800. We'll come back in a moment with this date in Les Levine history as I tell you about Sokolowski's University Inn, located in Tremont. Very accessible now. If you had problems before because of the freeway, the inner belt that they were redoing, well, that's all set. That's done. And you can get there easily. You can get off there easily also. Get directly onto Route 90, getting back into downtown, or 71 and 90, getting right back down to downtown Cleveland. Mike and Bernie Sokolowski's University Inn. They've been there since 1923 when their grandparents started the whole thing. Best view of downtown Cleveland, best food, lunch 11 to 3, Monday through Friday, and Friday and Saturday nights for dinner. We'll come back in a moment. We're brought to you by McDonald's Restaurants of Northeast Ohio, and I'm loving it. Let's take a look at this date in Les Levine history, November 3rd, 1972. After a sandlot season of being the designated hitter, the league changes the name of that position to designated batter.
Did you keep a diary back in those years?
Yes, that's how we come up with this. Yes, it's November. We're talking about sandlot. Let's go to This Week in Review, October 31st, Monday, 1960. Les gets 87 out of 100 on a math test in school. Unfortunately, he had no idea what his percentage was on that. Let's go to November 1st. Les wakes up screaming in the middle of the night. This is 2016. Screaming because he was dreaming that Lonnie Chisenhall hit a walk-off grand slam home run in the 11th inning of Game 6.
What if he'd have done it last night?
I was hoping for it. I was hoping. Les and his brothers in 1955 get to see the Cleveland Browns in the locker room at League Park where the team practiced. Les handed Paul Brown a play that he thought was going to work every time. Brown didn't share Les's enthusiasm. I actually did that.
You actually gave him
I had a piece of notebook paper, and I scribbled out X's and O's, and I don't think the X's added up to 11, but that's not important now. And it was on the punt when they had two blockers in front and you'd snap it in between.
Yeah.
I'm sure nobody thought of this before, but I said, well, if you snap it to one of the up guys and he runs with it, that would probably work a lot.
The old Levine fake punt play.
Exactly. Let's go to Mike, who is in Ravenna. Mike, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hey, Les. How are you?
I'm well, Mike. How are you? I'm
just have a
surprisingly
question.
better than I thought I'd be.
I just have a question for you and Jim, and I don't pretend to have any sports knowledge compared to you guys. I just have a question, and someone else alluded to it earlier. In the fifth game, instead of Bauer, I just wondered at the time why they didn't try Clevenger, Merritt, or even Salazar for a couple innings.
Okay.
To give Kluber and Tomlin their normal rotation to get them rested up. And
well, that wouldn't have changed Kluber, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, no.
Oh, no, because Kluber, no.
Everything would have stayed the same if he's just replacing Bauer. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's the way it worked out.
You would have said Merritt instead of Bauer or Salazar instead of Bauer. It wouldn't have changed Tomlin and Kluber.
It would not have changed them at all.
No. No, they still would have been 4th and 6th.
Okay.
All right.
I understand. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, good to talk to you. Appreciate it very much. 216-575-0403. You can email us during the show at les.levine@twcable.com. I'm getting further into this book, and it's getting very interesting. It's been interesting from day one. No money, no beer, no pennants. Story of the Indians in the Depression and baseball in the Depression, and how they survived, and the move from Cleveland Municipal, from League Park, which I just mentioned, to the Cleveland Municipal Stadium, and all the talk about that stadium being built for the Olympics, which is a fallacy. The Olympics were in 32, and it was done in 32, so they couldn't possibly have had it. But anyway, this is a great book. Scott Longer did it. Check him out at scottlonger.com. He also wrote a terrific book, The Best They Could Be, which is a story of the 1919 and 1920 Cleveland Indians, the team that won the championship in 1920. Well, you know what? I don't want to say everybody forgets, but I had forgotten that the Black Sox decision wasn't a decision until 2 weeks before the end of the season. I mean, they could have played still under indictment.
Yeah. I mean, it was the major news story as the Indians were closing in on the pennant.
Right, exactly. Each week, the Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes students who are role models from across the state of Ohio. This week, we head to Revere High School and we meet Audrey Harding. Audrey is not only a part of Revere's state-ranked soccer program, but is also a leader in the classroom as well. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is proud to salute Audrey Harding, this week's shining star.
There are 2 reasons why Audrey Harding is so good at soccer. She is a triplet with 2 brothers.
All siblings fight and stuff, but at the end, like, we all just want to be there, like, for each other and help one another, like, get to where we want to be.
Audrey learned how to play the game with Joel and Bryce by her side, and they made her tough.
And we started playing soccer probably around 6 or 7 years old, and she actually played on our guys' team for, I don't know, probably until we were 10 or 11, so she got experience playing with guys.
That helped her a lot. Playing with the guys, you know, got her speed up, got her quickness up. It just helped her a lot, because when she started playing with girls, it was a lot easier.
Sure enough, once they got to Revere High School, Audrey was named first team All-State as a sophomore and a junior.
She can dominate games. She can absolutely take over. She knows where the ball's going to be and can position herself there. She's an unbelievable player. She's one of the best I've ever coached.
She could score more goals and dish out less assists, but this is where her father, Gary, comes in.
Like, we're both, like, very, like, we don't like to be, like, in the spotlight all the time. Like, we like to share, like, we just don't like all the attention.
With all her goals and assists, Audrey Harding has already earned a soccer scholarship to UNC Wilmington. Factor in a 3.7 grade point average, and you have one impressive sister.
She's done amazing for her high school career, and I'm so proud of her.
I think it's just amazing that my sister could be hopefully an All-American this year. Like, that would be the coolest thing ever as a brother.
Just like to see kids, like, little, like, ball girls at our games, like, just to see them, like, standing there, like, watching us, like, hoping that, like, maybe one day they can be in the spot that I'm in. Like, I don't know, it's just amazing.
If you know a student who deserves recognition, we want to hear about them. Go to OhioLottery.com, then click on the Supporting Education tab. Nominate him or her as an academic all-star. He or she could end up as one of our shining stars from the Ohio Lottery. You see us Monday through Thursday. You see us from 6 until 7 live, then 11 to midnight most nights, and then 7 to 8 the following morning on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel 1311 HD and 311. Don't forget More Sports Les Levine with Anthony Lima comes your way this Saturday, and after every Ohio State game. Saturday, that should start at about 11:30, go to 12:30. We'll take your calls for the hour. We'll have the Urban Meyer press conference, and of course, we'll have highlights of Ohio State and Nebraska. Iceman Lenny says the Cubs fans were buying season tickets for next year to order to get playoff tickets for the World Series. It was cheaper to do that instead of getting tickets on the secondary market.
Yeah. Well, so
if that happened.
Maybe they could sell them back to the Cleveland fans.
Exactly. Iceman Lenny also wants to know how close Greg Allen is to being in Cleveland.
He's an interesting guy. I mean, he's a really good defensive center fielder, and he's a very good base stealer and is an improved hitter. And I think he's probably at least one more year away, but he's kind of an intriguing guy.
Don in Berea says, not sure I get the man from Cincinnati bringing up the excess of out-of-town ticket sales for the World Series. He said he was there at Game 7, and Cincinnati's more than 200 miles away. How do you get his tickets? Good question. Angelo, Cleveland, you know how to keep all the Cubs fans quiet in the game? Win. Don't be quiet.
The ultimate silencer.
Absolutely. Angelo also says, I think this is the worst umpired series, balls and strikes for both teams I've ever seen. wasn't consistent, I can tell you that.
No, there were some games that were very kind of alarming, I thought, too.
Let's go to Ben, who's in Gates Mills. Ben, good evening.
Good evening, Les. What a perfect email to lead into my call.
Okay.
The D-man brought up the point the other night. I think it's time to computerize this ball and strike count.
Oh, I don't want to see that. Jim, how about you?
Sam Hallberg last night had a horrible night calling balls and strikes.
Well, then get better umpires. And they're supposed to be the cream of the crop.
That's a problem. I mean, because you know this technology works because anytime.
No, you don't. How do you know where to set up the knees, where to set up the armpits or the letters? How do you know at the angle you're at if you're a little to the right of the center? How do you know that when that curveball comes in? How do you know where it's at?
Because when they show the ball in the box and they call it a ball, the pitcher's looking at the umpire like, why didn't I get that call? And vice versa. When the ball's outside the box and the umpire calls it a strike, the batter's looking at the umpire. So I would. All
right, I understand the argument. We don't have much time. I'll tell you what I would like to see, though. On the challenges, the replay challenges, I'd like that. If they want to make a challenge, just make it. Don't have the benefit of you having your people, your electronic people, actually tell you what to do. If you want to take the chance, if you want to take the chance and you want to challenge it, there's got to be a little bit of a penalty if it doesn't work. And there is no penalty if somebody on your staff tells you not to challenge it. What's the purpose of having a penalty?
I agree with that completely. And hey, one other thing real quick, Les. Your opening comment, I agree with everything you said there, but I think one other factor you missed on it, you can't underestimate the fact that the Cavs won the championship. I think the city would have been a lot more down today if the Cavs didn't win that championship in June.
I would agree with that, but I think that it was for the city, it was for the 52 years for the city of Cleveland, I think that was most exciting to everybody. I think if you ranked it in order, it would have been the Browns, the Indians, and the Cavaliers as to what the fans would have wanted. And I'm not knocking what the Cavaliers did. I'm just saying that that I think a lot of that was the fact it was a 52-year drought. What do you think?
The only asterisk to that list is LeBron James, kid from Akron. I still say this is a LeBron town over a Browns or Indians or Cavs town. My opinion. I'll let you guys go.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
What did you think?
Yeah, I would agree. I think the longevity of the franchise in this town has a lot to do with it. And the Indians having gone so long, I might even put the Indians above the Browns in this particular case since the Browns did win in '64.
Quickly, tell me who you think. It's way early to do this. Who's on the roster that won't be next year?
Who's on the roster that won't be there next year? I think Coco Crisp is on the bubble. I think Zach McAllister could be a guy. The guys in the bullpen, Manship, McAllister, one of those. I'm not saying that they're trying to get rid of them, but those are the kind of guys. I think Chris Jimenez is probably gone.
Yeah, he's your third catcher. You don't need it.
And Napoli, who knows?
All right, we got to go. Thanks to Jim Ingraham, as always. We'll see you on Monday. I'll be on radio tomorrow. Then we'll do Ohio State on Saturday. Of all the shows I've ever done, this was the most recent.